Why has UPI been receiving negative PR of late?
There has been a recent surge in a lot of this negative press and public relations against UPI, starting from our beloved Karnataka state.
I feel it's education slash intent problem.
Dude, one thing is that people are not incentivized to basically pay taxes, and everybody wants to avoid taxes like it's the plague.
And he refused to let me pay. He said, either you pay me 10 rupees or you bring cash or you go back. So I was like, yeah, fuck you. And I came back home.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Indian Startup Desktop. Let's go.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everybody.
If you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel below. Effects of divorce on children. Divorce leads children to the worst places. Microsoft. Moving on to chaprification of Indian workforce. I know you've all seen this, but I'll just play it for 5 seconds and then let's give our takes.
Side. Excuse me.
Aksham, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like you will enjoy doing this.
Shut the fuck up, bro.
Moving on to ideal concert attire. Oh, we all know what this is in reference to. This is how you should go to concerts if you've called in sick or you're cheating on your partners, by the way.
Makes sense.
Wealth creation by avoiding Coldplay concert. Mom, how did we get so rich? Your dad hugged an HR lady at a Coldplay concert. I got 50% from the divorce. Coldplay India.
Of course.
But so interesting how those events played out, right? Like overnight, people started to recognize him from who he was. Posts started to sprout upon. I was just thinking, was it gonna be so big if he was not from the tech industry?
Probably not.
The worst part was actually the SEO guy of Astronomer taking the fame there and saying
Yeah.
it's because of him, it's his new strategy which has started to work out now and they're seeing organic traffic. I was like, dude, how can you be so under a rock?
No, I think he was just trolling, dude. I mean, obviously, I think he was
Yeah.
trolling. Moving on to our new edition, Silicon Valley News. Lovable crosses 100 million in ARR. This is crazy, right? It's faster than OpenAI, Cursor, Wiz, and every other software company in history. Today, we are launching a game changing update. It reduces the error rates by 91%. Introducing Lovable Agent. Pavan, as our resident AI expert, why don't you take the crack first?
Just to provide context to all the viewers, Lovable is a no code, low code platform which allows people who do not have coding knowledge to build anything. It might be a dashboard or a website or an application. It has a predefined set of templates and a color palette and a and a way to actually form things which are in your mind by just giving out prompts. That's what Lovable does. There are a few competitors of it as also like a Bolt or a Replit, and a lot of these are emerging out as well. Why Lovable got into a lot of popularity is one because of ease of its use, and second, it understands
Vibe
prompts.
coding.
Yeah, it
Hashtag vibe
understands
coding, exactly.
prompts really well and delivers great UI, which is not the case with other of its competitors. It actually is able to visualize things what's in your mind and able to deliver that on your screen and quickly iterate with just smaller changes that you request for it, just like a human does.
But let's talk about the growth, right, Pavan? Like, is this the new precedent right now where, small teams can essentially have hyper growth journeys right now? I mean, we saw this with, OpenAI, Cursor, and now obviously Lovable. I think previously in SaaS, we've seen this with maybe a Rippling or a Deal for that matter, right? But is this the new norm?
I think so. Every 5 6 years, a new wave erupts, and the way businesses are done changes by a large extent. What AIBN has been able to do in last 5 years is accelerate a lot of these things, because of which people seeing value has massively reduced in terms of the time it used to take in earlier versus now. It's instant gratification. It's instant way of discovery for the users also. Same happened with Cursor. There was a so much large difference in the previous product and this product that people saw a lot of value and they were able to put dollars to it. This goes back to some way like the delta 4 theory also. Like if the product is so higher or elevated experience, people are ready to pay money for it, and when a mass number of people pay for it. This is what the result that we're seeing. So I don't think they are the alone company.
Pavan is mentioning Kunal Shah without
Lansha
mentioning
is
Kunal
Delta
Shah.
Form. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I know. I noticed.
But yeah, Nakam, why don't you give your take over here?
I think the most interesting thing for me is, right after they rebranded to Lovable around December, right? Just in the last 7 months, right? The growth has been so massive, right? Them going from a 5 million MRR to about a 15 million MRR in 3 months. From the 15 million MRR to now 100 million MRR in the next 4 months. I think that growth is massive. And I feel it's not just, I
I
mean,
think
in
you've
addition
confused
to,
MRR and ARR, but yeah, go on.
sorry, I meant ARR, not MRR. MRR, they are now touching about $1 million in daily subscriptions,
No, but
but
talk
they
about the
have.
larger point. No, like, is this the new precedent for AI companies and just companies in general in this new post AI world that they are going to see this rapid growth? But there's also the high probability of a company failure. For example, let's say 10 years back, once a company has reached 100 million ARR, we can assume that this company is going to stick around for a while and then they've kind of made it. But even today, with a lot of AI applications blowing up, it still doesn't feel like they are they've built a solid foundation to grow exponentially from here.
I think one thing that they are doing right is at least they're making the platform LLM agnostic, right? Which means that they are at least uh, trying to create a mode by at least having these smart routing requests via different AI tools, and they are leveraging an OpenAI, a Grok, a Cohere, all of them, right? And I think when you get into that aggregator sort of a play, there is more value added because then users don't really have to individually use a lot of those platforms directly, right? In addition to that, I also like personally the different way that they are creating the whole tiered business model, right? Depending on whether you're an individual, whether you're a business, and some of these things can become a moat. Having said that, obviously, with the speed in which innovation is happening in AI, everything feels replaceable unless they keep innovating, right? Like the progress
Yeah.
and changes happening so significantly fast. Tomorrow, I'm sure in the next 6 months, seeing the growth of Lovable, there'll be 100 more startups of vibe coding and how to build websites and all of that without code.
But Pavan, does this mean that in this new AI or post AI world, virality or GTM is basically what matters? And this is like I think there is a huge emphasis on product led growth at this stage, right? What is your take on that?
I think so. Product-led growth always had a charm, and people used to run behind it. But now it seems to become like a norm and a mandatory thing that everyone needs to follow. With enterprise sales kind of model for a product which isn't SaaS, you can only reach to a certain extent. But a virality or like a product-led growth model kicking in there and being in place gets you that 100x growth or 1000x growth, right? And now is the time where people also have realized that they also do not like talking to sales team. Actually, if they actually see value in the product, they would love to put like right value to it, add their card details and move ahead and cancel whenever they need. This process of talking to sales team for a SaaS kind of product, right? I see that has taken a hit in last few years, and
I
now
actually have a different opinion on this. I feel like now what Lovable is doing is they're only focusing on these individual subscriptions. But the mode for them is actually to move into, I mean, to essentially increase their ARPU and retention. They have to move into more business and enterprise tiered pricing so that they're able to retain businesses better, and they're also able to have large pools of revenue by closing enterprise businesses rather than just going after individual subscriptions.
Yeah, Saksham, to your point, no, while I don't necessarily disagree with you, I feel like the buying pattern or the buying cycle is a lot different now. For example, if they get cracked engineers and developers in these companies to get hooked onto their platform, these developers itself will become their internal salespeople in those companies to convince this enterprise to start using it. And I think that is a shift that Pavan was probably talking about.
and on the other side, if you see a product like Windsurf, right, what Saksham told is also not completely wrong.
Yeah.
When the numbers came out from the Windsurf deal, we saw that it was just 40 people or 40 engineers who were part of the core research and the engineering team, and rest 185, if I'm not wrong, were kind of enterprise sales team,
That's
which
crazy, dude.
literally
Yeah.
sold like this product. And there is like another 10 to 20 member team, if I'm not wrong, which literally went the PLG model and scaled it to a $9 billion, 9 billion valuation venture. They are exactly same products, or both folks of VS Code in some way, where now Microsoft is also focusing on getting the same to like multiple lands, but they have a different approach altogether. They are a mix of enterprise play plus a bit of open source plus existing distribution being captured. These are three products, three different teams in three different life cycles of their journey, selling it in different ways.
If anyone from any of these companies is hiring for sales roles, I'll leave my email ID in our description below.
Yeah, let's tag Saksham's boss and manager in this post.
But guys, one thing that I wanted to know is how much are you guys using vibe coding in your day to day lives? We belong to different roles. Pete, you know marketing really well. I do bunch of product and different kind of stuff. Saksham, you're in sales. Is vibe coding a part of your life right now?
Not my life, frankly speaking, right? Like in sales, I don't really have a use of it. I use a bunch of AI tools, but not Lovable is not something that is useful to me personally, at least right now.
Yeah, Pawan. So look, I've dabbled with Lovable and a bunch of these no-code tools, but I don't necessarily use it for work. But one of the things is that since I speak to a lot of AI founders and indie hackers and developers, I get to see a lot of the crazy stuff that they're building using a Lovable or a Bolt, right? And I think that is where majority of my learning has been. But what about you? I'm sure you must be using this a lot.
I'm quite addicted to, I would say, vibe coding and using these kind of tools and literally trying them left, right, and center. One is like my present company which I'm running also happens to be in this category where I'm literally on the other side of things where I want people to wipe code, but with caution. What we are building is essentially enabling people to push things that are wipe coding with confidence into production. Not allowing like the various controversies that you guys are seeing on Twitter as well, right? Where people just wipe code and show off on Twitter. But there is one guy who comes up and says that, dude, this part of your website is broken and there is a major security threat here. This part of your website is broken and I don't think so. You should be calling it off a day by just pushing it out in production. So these are the kind of things that our company works on to avoid companies getting into limelight or them doing blunders. So for me, it becomes essential to keep a track of them. And as well, I think so. This is happening for the first time in the industry where everyone or anyone can just wake up one day and decide to start a business, and by the end of the day, we'll have a product. Then it just depends upon how you build a GTM to it, how you build a distribution to it, how you actually get it into multiple lines. That's it. Like this one, see, and the surprising one part for me was there is a team who has built a replication of Lovable in less than 6 hours or 8 hours
I saw
using
that. I
Cloud.
saw that.
Isn't that crazy to believe like a $200 million raise company, which is valued at close to a $2 billion
Yeah.
uh, product, has been replicated by someone else in like less than a day?
Dude, like, yeah, I feel like we are even though we say that we are living in the AI world, I feel like we're living in the peak of the copycat world. Like, if somebody can basically use Lovable to build a DocuSign, and people can basically use a Bolt or Lovable to build a version of Lovable in Bolt. Like, I feel like a lot of these things can be iterated, built on, and copied a lot more faster, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing that I was reading a post about was no matter how much you solve for a product, it DocuSign exists to create a business. They have a massive business there, and all of these tools will make great business. That shows that how important GTM and getting distribution and marketing your product and enabling sales is. It's just not the product that makes it. It's the things that you build around it, the sales and the supply chain that you build around it.
Wow, wow, wow. Nice, bro. What a way to end the section. Okay, moving on to our story of the week.
Oh, this only became story of the week.
Yeah.
Why has UPI been receiving negative PR of late? Let me first read the tweet that blew up, and Saksham, maybe we can start with you. What's with the sudden PR against UPI? I have heavily reduced my usage of UPI over the past year. I prefer cash or card now. Go on, Saksham.
So essentially, what's been happening, for our viewers is that there has been a recent surge in a lot of this negative press and public relations against UPI, primarily starting from our beloved Karnataka state, wherein a lot of the small vendors have been issued these GST notices, right, and which is why there is a lot of protest going on against not using UPI and only using cash, right, and obviously this is happening because. Uh, because of the surge in UPI transactions for a lot of these small vendors, their actually income, or their overall gross income exceeded the limit, GST registration limit of 40 lakh rupees for goods and 20 lakh rupees for services, right? And this has created a huge problem wherein now these people are opposing UPI. Having said that, the middle class tax paying economy like us is looking at it very differently. So why
Yeah,
don't we go to
first of
the
all, we're
next
not middle class
tweet?
because I feel like a lot of us assume that they themselves are middle class, but I think we've painfully learned this from our previous boss that none of us are middle class and we all belong in the top 1% per se. But look, Avan, maybe you can jump in over here. But is this as simple as people don't want to pay tax, and if you use UPI, the government basically knows how much money is coming into your account? Is it as simple as that?
I think so.
I feel it's a call for the change. The prices that people were selling, or these specifically the vendors and the thelawalas and the sabziwalas were selling, were not inclusive of GSTs. Their margins were not baked in to do that. And suddenly overnight they realize that they have to start doing it. So what happens is, these are all commodity businesses, right? If an X guy is selling it at a 100 rupee price, the Y guy who is a competitor of him selling the same sabzi also gets compelled to sell it at like maybe 2 rupees higher, or if the quality of the product is low, 2 rupees lower, 98 or 102 rupees. That's the margin that's left in all these businesses. Now for your eternity of a life, you have not used to of paying taxes, you have done your business on cash. So you never incubated those mechanisms that I will pass on this extra money that I have to pay to the government to the customer, and in that journey I will also make business and make the profits. And suddenly a technology wave comes in and a product like UPI gets introduced, but still GST is not mandated to him. He sees a FOMO. He sees 100 people using UPI. It's convenient. It's also convenient to the customer. He also, couple of instances, he sees that people who are allowing others to pay using UPI are getting more customers, because that's the way everywhere going. So he suddenly starts using and adopting it. But now he is realizing that, dude, everything is accounted. I was supposed to pay taxes if it is accounted,
Yeah.
and I have been doing this over last 3 years. And how will I make that losses come again now? Like, I'm not saying that he has burnt all that money
Yeah,
or
but Pawan,
his
look,
intent was wrong.
I think the my initial reaction when I heard this news was exactly in this post, right? We are taxed in every single thing. We have no other option but to pay taxes. And when you see, vendors and auto rickshaws, and look, I'm not comparing, us to them. Obviously, they have it much harder. They do a lot of, manual work, blah blah blah. But the fact that nobody's incentivized to pay taxes, and people who pay taxes don't get any additional benefit or
Yeah.
anything additional from it, and this just pisses me off so much.
No, I agree with your point of view. Just one more thing, actually, I want to add on why a lot of these vendors are also, what argument they're also giving is right that today a lot of these using these gross UPI inflows as turnover is flawed as a mechanism, because it one does not distinguish between personal expenses and income, and it also does not help them really bifurcate exempted transactions, right? For example, fruits and vegetables and small services, all of these are supposed to be non-tax items.
Yeah.
So that's also becoming a problem. So there is obviously
Hmm.
some truth to their pain and why they are protesting.
Yeah.
But in fact, this happened to me. I just a couple of days ago, I went to the shop downstairs to buy a 5 rupees Feviquick, right?
Hmm.
And I was obviously paying with UPI. I don't carry cash, and he refused to let me pay. He said either you pay me 10 rupees, or you bring cash, or you go back. So I was like, yeah, fuck you, and I came back home. I'm not
But,
going to
but
pay
but
double.
don't you guys think this is actually like a very platform problem? For example, if you go to a restaurant to buy food, it'll be cheaper than ordering from Swiggy or Zomato. Do you see this same wave happening for digital transaction and cash transactions as well? Where if you pay digitally, it's going to be more expensive. So whatever money, let's say the government is basically ignoring on MDR and not charging that, I feel like we citizens ultimately now have to endure this.
But I don't know. Like I feel like the whole concept of maximum retail price exists for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like you should not be charging a customer on top of that. And the whole reason for UPI being introduced in the economy was so that you can digitize these cash transactions while making sure that the MRP or the price at an end customer pays does not go up. So if this ends up happening, then we are, in my opinion, going back 10 years, right?
I feel it's education slash intent problem. The shopkeeper that you mentioned, he doesn't know that he can get a GST number for free, and through which, if his turnover is not more than 20 lakhs, he actually doesn't have to pay taxes altogether. And he gets a lot of benefits of having the GST number also in different ways, where he can actually bypass the GST legally for the goods that he's buying or his expenses. So I think so it's intent and education problem more.
No, I feel people are aware of this and they know that they will have to pay taxes that they have been very conveniently evading.
Dude, let me actually like. There's another split to it, right? This angle we haven't spoke about. Dude, one thing is that people are not incentivized to basically pay taxes, and everybody wants to avoid taxes like it's the plague. But secondly, even the process of paying GST is not as simple as making a UPI payment. They still have to hire an accountant. They still have to hire somebody who understands, a little bit on the finance side and essentially do this. Do you think a small vendor or any roadside, smoke shop, panwala will essentially want to do this? No, the answer is no. It should be as simple as transferring GST and UPI on a UPI, app to make this happen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. GST is complicated, right? Even somebody like us, also it's not super easy to go out to the GST portal, figure out what all you have to do. And I would definitely assume that it's tougher for, the lower income middle class.
And I feel it should be done there and then, rather than you accounting it for end of the month. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there is complexity involved in like all these accounting practices, but we are living in this hyper technology
Yeah.
era where people are building shit in like less than 2 hours. I feel we should put a foot for thought and see why should someone be paying or thinking about how he will file taxes at the end of the year or end of the month. I need a CA. If government needs to take money, government needs to exactly tell how much we are supposed to pay, and it should come as a
One,
bill we pay and move on.
why don't you build a website using Lovable to pay taxes?
Hmm. Let's move on, guys.
Awesome. But I think we've reached the end. That's it from this week's edition of the Indian Startup Desktop. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel below. See you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
We'll cut it. Like last point, I'll say.
Go on.
What was it? I forgot.
Sorry.
Copycat economy.